Okay, cool. I guess we'll do like a three, two, one, and we'll start.
Oh, was that not started?
Oh, I guess it was.
We did
And
bandy
start.
about. All right.
No, you're right. I guess we're started. Okay. Hello, Ryan.
Hi, Nick. How's it going?
It's going.
Oh, it
Um,
is.
are we gonna update like with stuff that we have going on at Feather before we talk about something fun, or are we just like
Like a building in
jumping into
public?
something?
I don't know. Do we want to make this part of? I feel like if we did it in every time, that might be too much,
A bit
right?
too
Like
much.
we want to
What?
we want to provide value outside, especially as we move in a non-consumer direction.
Hmm. I liked how you did a building in public about building in public.
Meta.
Yeah.
Um.
Uh, so what does that mean for this one?
I, hey, Nick. What are we doing with Feather? Tell me what's new.
Okay. Yeah, I'll tell you what's new with Feather. We just got a technical co-founder on board, which is phenomenal. He's not on this call currently, but maybe he might hop into future ones.
Maybe.
We
I'm not sure if this
are
is his vibe.
speaking,
I
huh?
could be. I'm not sure if this is his vibe. We'll
You know
see.
what?
We'll talk to him.
That's fine. He doesn't need to be a camera person. He's the tech part. Let's see what else. We have a potential first customer, and we've made a short-term pivot to B2B from being strictly consumer facing, as we've gotten guidance that consumer, as far as raising, is just not a space you want to be in right now. And honestly, we kind of had an interesting fork in the road where we could have positioned this anywhere, and B2B was the way to kind of fast track a lot of the progress. So we've done a slight pivot, and it's essentially going to be uh, the same original formula, just in conference application instead of consumer.
Well, and to get us off track, because I do like getting us off track. To that point, I think it is important to think about the fact that, like, as we were building this from the very start, we were very careful about thinking about it in such a way that there was never a closed door, right? A door that you can go through both
Mm-hmm.
ways is always helpful. And building it kind of at that door frame, if we're going to torture this metaphor a little more, um, is really like how I was thinking about it architecturally, which was like there's the consumer side, there's a couple of the other things that
Mm-hmm.
we've talked about, and like all of it ends up needing that same base layer if you build the base layer generally enough
Yeah.
and are creative about how to apply it to the specifics. So really we are changing probably functionally the front end and then just how we're
I guess you're
how we're
right.
pointing a couple of things, not in the sense of like API, but like
I get.
how we're yeah, hit go.
I guess pivot might be an incorrect terminology.
I mean
Um,
it's a pivot in the sense of like the business plan, right?
I guess yeah,
But
the
technologically it's
foundation.
not.
No, no, it's not. It's really just anything. Yeah, I guess like the UI and up is changing, but anything underneath that is the
Most
foundation of
things,
the
yeah.
application is not changing.
Yeah. Um all right, was that enough? What else? I think that's
Yeah,
probably good.
yeah, that's probably good.
Okay.
Yeah. So, uh, because this is the first episode of these things, episodes also sounds like a weird word. It does not feel episode. Mm, the first in the series of these types of.
The first experience. Oh no,
Oh,
sorry.
kind of
I was being very
pretentious.
sarcastic with that.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Oh
The
man,
first kind of.
I have a thing for you to listen to. You'll hate it. I need you to listen to like 10 minutes of it just so you can come back to me and tell me how much you hate
Okay.
it. There's a podcast slash radio show out of Stanford from I don't know what the fuck he is. He's there like antiquities or what? That's an Indiana Jones word. But he does like old languages from dead people. Um,
Okay.
and that's he's the professor at Stanford, and he is um, esoteric to the point of pain. I really enjoy this show. I recognize a lot of it is just like academic bullshit with a heavy part on the bullshit. Anyway, I really enjoyed it. You're gonna hate it, so I need you to listen to 10 minutes, and this is your assignment. We can come back next experience, and you can tell us about it.
Okay. Okay. I will. I'm making it right now. Okay. Well, anyways, the first of these conversations, just to give some people background, we generally go off topic when we are having real meetings on, we'll call them thought experiments that kind of go off the rails, or I don't know what you call them, biz dev fan fiction. Uh,
Love that. That's good.
eventually somebody said, you should just make that a podcast, because it is rather interesting and it's just us distracting from a real phone call. So,
Not to
yeah,
not to call you out on a lie here, Nick. Who is that? Was that somebody you?
what do you mean?
You said somebody said we should make that a podcast. Was that you?
Oh, I feel like that was either like Lauren or
Oh,
Janae,
okay.
or
Okay, so I'm not calling you out
one of
here.
those that
I
that
thought you
we
were gonna be
had.
like cool about it and be like, oh, and then someone said that this should happen, and it was just like you.
At a coffee shop, and they were like, "You need to be on TV." That's
And
somebody
it
from
was
TV.
Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh my god! Yeah. So that's what this is. That's what this is in short. Is basically those kinds of conversations. I think we recorded one, Ryan. I need to see if I can link to it here, because I don't know if it ever made it up. I think it did, where we talked about what it would look like to bring in AI into the sports betting space to try to like
Oh, we
tie
recorded that?
AI. Yeah,
Oh,
I
I
know
just
we
thought that was a
recorded that.
conversation we were having. I mean, I'm sure I knew at the time that we recorded it, but my memory of that is
I
not of a recording.
I need to double check. If it is, I will link it here so that you can listen to that. But that's kind of the same vibe where
If it's
we were
not,
talking about.
ship has sailed because we need to get us some good betting advertisements on here, and we don't want to muddy that water, you know?
I guess you're right. I guess you're right. Oh, which of course, and then when I went to Vegas. I saw a new type of machine that was essentially like 85% of what we talked about, and I was like, oh my gosh,
Mm.
this is just put a.
Did I tell you, by the way, I work with someone who used to be in gaming, but like in the like Las Vegas sense of the word?
No, who?
I mean, you wouldn't know her.
I don't know, but
Anyway, I every time like my brain does not think of like slots gaming, and like I
yeah.
know that that's what she worked in, but like anytime it comes up, I'm like, oh my god, you worked in gaming, and I'm like, nope, okay, never mind, wrong thing.
What would she do in gaming?
I think she did. Ooh, I should know this. I don't remember. Some sort of like analytics or
Mm.
and she just what did she do? I don't know. Maybe
Okay,
she worked for a
because she.
company that did analytics.
Oh, okay. Because the game I saw was Konami that makes
Yes.
non Vegas games, also makes like slot games,
Hmm.
and they're very um, clearly like branded as Konami games. One of which is a like fake horse race.
Oh yeah,
You've seen that, right?
yeah. Those are like the old ones from the fair that like are stereotypical. It's like the little
Yeah,
metal
like,
ones that go.
and they're like on a little like
Yeah.
magnet kind of thing, and
Uh huh.
there's a huge dome that it has like seating around it. Okay, well, the whole thing I was pitching to you about like the Unreal Engine and the coin thing, I was like assuming that like there was no legal basis for gambling that was like being done by a machine, and like this was like a loophole. Literally, they've already done this. You
No,
just take that
we,
Konami.
we're
What?
not going to argue this because this is not the topic of this podcast, and we can't get off topic from getting off topic.
Right, you just
You
take that
have to
game and you just
very
put the
specifically
Unreal
be
Engine.
able to place odds, and you cannot place odds if it is being done by something that is not literally randomly
Right,
put together.
that game is doing it.
Right, that
They
game
figured it
has
out.
very specific, I mean, mostly mechanical ways in which it constrains its possible outputs and repeated outputs to the specific odds of that game.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that the I was saying that underpinning the, like, we'll say, the Unreal Engine race that was being done in real time would have been some other, like, contrived way to, like, legally get betting onto some kind of digital system. They've already done that. So literally, you know how, like, the technology company that does, like, the encryption by pointing the cameras at the lava lamps
Yes.
because it's, like, the only truly random. Okay, literally, you point the camera at the horses that are doing that game, and then the jockey position of those horses become what you see on the screen.
I
Like,
understand. I am here for the consumer facing side of it. To be very
okay,
clear, um, I want you to imagine that you're the house. How do you win as the
okay,
house?
in the literally in the same way that you win with that game. However, the gambling and the odds and the payouts are set out for that game. I'm saying I'm taking that and I'm just putting it a new, we'll say, UI over it to open up the TAM from the people that it's getting right now.
Oh yeah, sure, you could do that. You were talking
That's
about like
all I'm
having
saying.
like this very complex like season long AI putting to like
I think you could build to that. To be honest with you, I think you could build to that if you can show this proof of concept.
no,
You
because that
can,
would be non-deterministic and you can't control the odds. Non-deterministic is not the right word I'm
yeah,
looking for. Um,
you can't control the odds, but you can weigh and unweigh variables like you would in a normal race, where it's like that's his home track or that's some other kind of metric. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
but that's the thing where like you start getting into this the difference between what you can do technologically and what you can do legally are a large gulf. And I don't know. I'm not. You know what?
I'm not saying
Future
it's wrong.
listeners or
I'm not.
current listeners, I'm looking. I do this. I look in the camera every once in a while. Current listeners, if you know why Nick is wrong, please call in, or you can email us at Nick. What are they emailing us at? Whatever. We'll fill it in later.
Yeah,
We'll
just
get our
leave a
editing
comment.
guy to
Just
do
leave
it.
a comment. 1-800 chat GPT.
Yeah, that's it. Have you done that yet?
I haven't, because when I saw that on my phone, I literally threw it and I went, fuck, because I felt so vindicated. But no, I have not. I can imagine what it is
I
and how
haven't.
it works.
I'm so thoroughly uninterested.
Their whole, like, 12 days of, like, shipping new product. I thought that was fun, but I kind of went like, I don't know who this is for, but cool, awesome. I'm glad you did another thing. It's not like I was already. They're like launching product as if, I don't know, as if people are like, I kind of stopped using ChatGPT. Like, I
I
think
mean, I
people that
think
are
they're
getting value
trying
out
to
of it.
not be up like they're trying to not become like a commodity, right? Like as all these models get better and better, and as we start to run into the like diminishing returns that it's already looking like we're hitting, um, like they're all going to get to a certain level of goodness, and then it's just like okay, the only thing you compete on is how cheap you are, and that's shit. That's a race to the bottom for everybody. You can tell I've been taking
Yeah,
a managerial econ course recently. Um,
yeah,
that's some I'm not even going to say because I'm going to switch it around. I always do. But you know, I think that they're trying to de-commoditize. They're like trying to be like, no, look, we do actual products, and it's just like mostly actual products that no one's going to use or someone's going to take and do better.
yeah. It's,
I've started
I don't know.
using
There's more of
Claude.
it.
It's like the first time that I've
Yeah,
like properly started doing more stuff, and like there's obviously things that I could have been doing forever, but like the easiness of
yeah.
ChatGPT just because it was already a solution, I was already there, was enough to make me not necessarily get to needing to explore. But like Claude is good enough now, and I think is like prettier in how it writes. Um,
You know, I think unfortunately, at least in the way I use it, it's already pretty commoditized. I like how easy it is to do the talk. I don't know. I know it has a name, but the thing where you can basically just have a back and forth dialogue with GPT,
mm-hmm.
and it's like in your pocket, like you leave it locked and you just have it on the AirPods. Anybody that can do a better version of that, I will jump to that because honestly, stringing together thoughts is been amazing. I've talked through the like wireframes of an application in a car driving, just kind of going like back and forth and just saying, what about this? What about that? Make a note of that. And then at the end, I was like, can you just summarize all the points so that I can get this and like take this to next steps? Um, Today at the market, I had it on the entire time, and I would like add things to a running tally to be like, I'm adding this, I'm adding that, and I'd be like, how much is in my cart right now? Um, and it was able to kind of
Hmm.
be like this little. It was super seamless.
It's a super
But
cool
if
way to
somebody
use
was
it.
more, huh?
It's a super cool way to use it. I guess I never really thought about doing it that way. I'm still very much in the like, because I got deeper into the like very hyper specific prompting. Like
Yeah.
that is not a way that I think I would be comfortable interacting. Like I mean, obviously I should. It's a very different way, and it would be valuable for me to learn. But like, it's not the natural way that I am now thinking about interacting with it. Like even when I'm like typing things in, like I'm structuring things in very specific ways to get very
Mm.
specific formats of responses and all of that. And so like I think I started talking to it like a person and am now talking to it very much like somewhere between a person and a computer. Um,
Yeah.
and
I
so
get
like
you.
but I think it would
I
be
think
good
that's
for me to see that because like frankly that's what we need to start thinking about, like what does that look like, because that is the future of everything. How you're
it
doing
is.
it, by
It's
the way,
just
not how I'm doing
it,
it.
it's it having enough context to not need to do that, and not in like the really shitty way where like Google ruined search, but like in the real way where it's like picking up on that. Or I even finished that interaction by like taking a photo of my receipt, and I was like, hey, did they overcharge me for anything, or did I miss something? And it like was able to just cross verify and say like, no, everything was charged correctly, because I've had issues at the market before where they didn't change the price or something in the system, but they changed it in the aisle.
Mm.
Um, and I've rarely caught it, which means it's probably happened more times than not. So, um,
Sorry, when you say
it,
market, is this like an outdoor market or like just like the grocery store?
I guess it's a colloquial thing on what it is that you can like call it in your brain, the supermarket, like a
Mm.
Bonds or a Rouse. I grew up just calling it the market.
Oh, okay. No, I thought that
Um,
you like were doing some sort of like Saturday morning stroll out and like,
no,
which
no,
is why
no.
you were
I
like
literally
you were talking about this, and I in my imagination it was like you and Janae and Lilybell and like strolling through the market and you just
oh
talking to your phone, and I was like,
no 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 no
that seems
no 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 no. No, I was at the grocery store that historically sometimes overcharges for stuff.
ah
And I was trying to like see if I could really carelessly talk to it like you would somebody like a friend that you don't prompt a friend to go like, now remember, like
yeah.
if somebody was in charge of like with a pen and paper, you would carelessly talk to them
Mm-hmm.
and know that they would pick it up. So I tried to do that. I tried to just be very careless, like, I'm gonna add this. Oh wait, that package is too big, never mind, I'm adding this one instead. And to, to see what would happen, and it kept up pretty good. I keep trying to challenge myself on different ways to use it, because I know that most of the limitation is my own in not thinking that it can bend to a certain use case, um, more than it actually not being able to handle that use case.
I think it's
But
a really good point. I think a lot about this because I interact with a lot of people who like talk about AI without understanding what it is, and that's fine. But like when it comes to using AI, they are so limited in how they use it because they get this like cycle where they don't have the skill to think about other ways to use it, which then causes them to like not have the skill to use those ways when they do think about it or present it, and it just like doesn't habituate.
Yeah, it's the same cycle where it's like you can't what is it? You can't get anywhere you haven't been before by thinking the ways that you have already. I'm not saying it right, but
Back quote.
kind of you understand what I'm trying to
Yeah.
get at. It's that same kind of idea.
It's my mom
Oh, you
in
know what?
2010 or whatever being like, I don't need a no, not 2010, 2000 like 16, I think 2017. She's like, I don't need a smartphone. What am I gonna do with it? I'll never use it. And it's because she had never gotten the chance to use one. I mean, like obviously, like,
Yeah,
but like
it's
consistently and to build habits. And then she got one, and like 3 months later, she's like, my phone is full, and there's all these apps, and I use all of them, and I love all of them. And I'm like, I've been telling you to get one
what
for
is it?
years.
If Henry Ford said if he asked people before he made the Model T what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse.
Yeah.
It's kind of that same idea, which I don't know weirdly reminds me that in our talks we could have a power broker update.
Nick, there's already a podcast that does it, and they are so much better than we will ever be.
I'm not like trying to piecemeal it to people that are reading through it. I just wanted to talk to you about where I am in it.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, we can do that. Speaking of which,
Uh,
they finished their last like proper episode. They're doing
oh
some like
really?
appendix episodes, but they talked to Caro again. So that's like the third time. By the way, that thing that I like screen recorded that I definitely didn't screen record um, from the New York Historical Society, I think is like just up now, so you can go watch it. So when you're
Oh,
done with
okay.
the book, I would recommend it. The 3 interviews combined, it's really good. The guy is brilliant. Um, that is to say, I think you said to me, I believe, um, several weeks ago now, something about wanting a
Yeah.
Robert Moses challenge coin.
Oh yes, where it was like because this off the joke of you saying anybody who ends up reading this book, it becomes
Like a
part of their
personality.
personality. Like you can't just casually go through the power broker. Like if you can make it through, son of a bitch.
But you have to listen through the whole thing before you're allowed to get it. You don't. I'm just saying that you should.
Oh, I'm
Because
like,
it's very
I
good.
was like, Ryan, I need to know how they verify that because that is super interesting that they have that. Anyway,
So this
um,
is actually attached to a Bitcoin purse. But not a Bitcoin, sorry, just I don't know, some other random coin
on
purse.
chain. Is that a blockchain?
Yeah, blockchain.
Oh, that's my other idea.
Oh God, no!
That we
Don't
talked
don't
about.
no no don't do a blockchain idea, Nick.
It's the good one I told you about.
No, I don't remember what was a good one.
It was okay. So first of all, it's co-opting the system
No no no
for
no.
social
Oh, I
growth.
never responded to this. No, Nick.
You didn't.
The whole thing about it is you're like, this would be great. All we need to do is get someone to centrally control it, and that is what's gonna make it verified and make sure everyone's like super happy with it. But that is explicitly the opposite of what anyone who actually wants to touch
Wait,
those
no,
things.
maybe
You're talking
I don't
about
know.
the like medical debt through
Talking
blockchain.
about any debt. Yeah,
Right. I mean any debt, but like we started talking about medical
we
debt.
talked about medical debt. Yeah,
No, because nobody wants anything that's going to be centralized. That's like the whole point.
there's a way to structure it. There has to be a way to structure it. I don't know how.
By the time you get
I'm not
around to
saying that
that,
I'm
hopefully Bitcoin won't exist. Don't come at me,
okay. Fair,
Bitcoin bros.
fair, fair. Okay. Anyways, we've gotten off topic.
Yeah,
The only thing on Robert Moses I wanted to say was that I'm getting now towards. You mentioned that there is not going to be a lot of stuff about the World's Fair in it, and because it was written somewhat contemporaneous to that happening and people still being alive.
yeah.
It's funny. I'm already starting to notice as as we're getting closer towards the end of the book, it went from this is exactly how he did this and exactly how he did that to like he's kind of doing this and he's kind of he's saying
Yeah.
you. It's like we're starting to abridge a lot more stuff because there's not like the granular information, and it's really funny how you can see that if you're looking for it.
So when he started writing this book, like Robert Moses was in power, and
When did he start writing it?
I don't remember when.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember the exact date, but he started writing it when Robert Moses was in power, and he finished writing it when Robert Moses was still alive and had not a lot of power left, but like was still alive and
Yeah.
kicking. And there were a lot of people who just like uh, were terrified of the man, even well past anything that he
Yeah.
did. So there were so many. It's like so much of it, like he couldn't get information on this recent stuff because anyone who could tell him were still scared shitless of Robert Moses.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Uh, I just he just finished with the mayoral run of what's his name? His nickname is hilarious, Impy.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
in
Impolitano.
yeah, something like that.
God, what a it was. That one took me back. Just the nickname Impy. I was like, what?
I will say that I learned a lot of racial slurs from this book that I had never heard before because they came from like the 60s. And I was like reading through and being like, I don't know why I was reading through, I was listening to it. I was listening through and I was like, what is, I've never heard this word before. And I'd have to like pause it and go look it up. I'm like, wish I hadn't done that on my Google search history.
See, but now you don't think it's some kind of like you know term of endearment for
Yeah, no, I'm very glad that I
like
did. It just like, and again, it's always like when he's quoting people, it's not like Kara's just running through and just like being a
sure.
piece of shit. But like, there are some. I mean, it was like the 40s and 50s and 60s, and he's just like quoting these people, and I'm just like, those aren't even words that exist anymore.
Yeah, or like the stuff about the swimming pool temperature.
Oh yeah,
You're like, I'm sorry, what? And he's like, oh, he just had a notion. Okay. Anyways, that's all I have on Robert Moses. For
Can I
right
take
now,
this
watch that.
to really off track us again? It's going to be a several logical leaps here, because
Okay.
we were talking about weird, uh, weird racist ideas and stereotypes to
Mm-hmm.
a show that I'm watching right now where they play on the ridiculousness of it, in like a like, well, what the fuck? Why would you think that kind of way? To be clear,
Mm-hmm.
um, to the fact that if you haven't seen The Gentleman, I think you would really like it. It is spectacle and it's weird and it's like your flavor.
Is that a show or?
Yeah, it's about like some duke who like inherited land after his father died, and there's like
Is it a movie?
it no, it's a show. It's like eight episodes. It's on Netflix. I think they're gonna do another season, but it's just like about this duke who is like this like posh dude who is like a soldier or whatever the fuck, and like dealing with the fact that there's a criminal enterprise that is living in his like under his extensive lawns. Um, and so
Hmm.
anyway, it's very good. It's very weird. It lampshades a lot. It's like very self-referential, but also like high drama. I don't know. It's really good.
Okay.
Heavy recommend. Don't recommend with people who don't like watching violence and some level of gore.
Okay, then I'll just watch it by myself. That was like Janae really likes the first half of most Quentin Tarantino movies,
Yeah,
uh,
that makes sense.
and not the second half.
I'm
Like
so
she
sad I can't
loved.
recommend this
Yeah,
one to Lauren because like I think she would like it too, but no.
yeah. Like we got through like three-quarters of Inglorious Bastards, and she was
I still haven't seen
like,
that.
"Oh my gosh, I can't. Oh my gosh, Ryan, you should see it. It's very good." she was like, I can't believe I haven't seen this before. It's so good. And then like the last 15 minutes of the movie, she was like, I'm gonna have trouble for a couple days, and she did. Like it was hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
No.
so
So yeah,
I will watch it though.
watch that one alone.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Anyways, it's funny how we like set a topic on a show that we consistently go off topic on.
Nick, remember when
topic?
Do you remember when I came in after you suggested this and I was like, oh, so like the basement yard, but for like startup shit? And you're like, no, I don't want to be like that. But we are like that.
Whoa. I didn't say that.
Don't come at us.
I didn't say that. I was surprised that you listened to the basement yard.
You indicated that you did not find them entertaining past like 10-second clips, but in like a slightly more dismissive way.
I first was introduced to them through their like TikTok edits.
Yeah,
which I'm sure is
those
very
are very
similar
good
across like social media. They condense them down to their greatest hits, you know, and it is really funny. But it's the same like phenomenon where you get somebody who's really good doing crowd work, and then you give them like a special, and and then they tank, and it's kind of that side, but on the consumer side, like I was expecting a certain pace. I was expecting like improv zingers, just like back and forth. And when you listen to the episode long form, they kind of meander. They like look up stuff. There's pauses, which if you had been introduced to them in that format, it's totally fine.
That makes sense.
But I was like, oh, this is gonna be like a joke a second. Just like I can't even keep up. And it's not.
No, it's definitely not that. And like I don't know. I think like especially as you listen to more like there's you can't say lore because it's like actual people talking about their actual life, but like you learn about things and like it gets referenced back and it's fun. Speaking of lore, sorry, no, I can't just keep on recommending you things. I need you to finish the Power Broker.
I need you to finish the stuff that I sent you.
YouTube
videos.
I want you to know, Nick, that I am currently in the process of trying to go through a backlog of a lot of different things I've been telling people I would consume in one way or another for many years. I am currently a little more than halfway through a book that once I finish, I will spend the like 3 hours to watch at least 2 of those videos, and then I'll have to jump to something else before I get to the rest.
Well, mine are directly related to our startup, so
Great, so I can watch it as part of my startup time. I'll just, instead of doing, some of our feature writing, I'll just watch videos.
Yeah.
Is our startup talking about Robert Moses? Because I feel like that's what our startup is, based on the videos you sent me. All right. Oh, wait. Hold on. Nick, how do you make a startup about talking about Robert Moses? Go.
A startup that talks about Robert Moses?
No. That's like the only thing it does. Like that's what you sell. You sell talking about Robert Moses.
Oh, you basically you're. I mean, that's like most social medias. You're basically just making like rate. So all you do is that is that you just showcase things that he did and prejudices that he had, and then you go like, what do you think about that? And you throw in an ad there in the comments like Reddit does. Boom, engagement bait. Okay,
so here's what I'm realizing is the problem. All of like the urban planning YouTube and other social media are so like measured and calm, and like what we really need is a rage bait urban planner. Like honestly, we need an urban planner who gets so mad that they're like screaming into the camera.
I think that's part of what Robert Moses, like, again, it's like
actually you know what I did just
we need that like Rigby short that like he was a very bad person with a lot of
Iteraps in recognition that Robert is a piece of shit.
Yeah.
We couldn't put M because Iteraps is just not as good. So Iteraps.
Okay, so like Iteraps, like public, like city planning and like urban development, it just like it is so boring to so many people here in the United States. It is just like one of those. It sounds dry. When you tell people that you're like on urban planning YouTube, they go like, "What the fuck? Kind of boring." Like you sound like you're working on your ham radio in your basement in Vermont. Not in Vermont's too cool. Like in like North
Don't no 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 no!
Dakota.
Don't say it. Whatever you're gonna say, don't say it. We're gonna lose fans, Nick.
Like it sounds like the most like you are not good in social situations type thing, but it is so interesting and it is so important. And I do think that having somebody that just like comes in and like can rally people, he can be an awful person, but you're like, wow, he really gets a room going. Just because it's not like being a frontman in a rock band where by like definition you're gonna get super charismatic people. Like this is a very uncharismatic type space historically. So yeah, and it just perpetuates itself by just having more uncharismatic people in it. So you need to come in with somebody with a little bit of pizzazz and showmanship. And again, Rigby, uh, it's
It wraps.
it wraps. He did that. Like he came in and people would be like, "Oh, he gets things done." Look, like how, why, for who, to what end, like, but he got it done. And people are like, "That look like he looks like he knows what he's doing." Um, so
It's
do
funny that
agree.
you
I think
say that because I have mentioned casually, like I haven't been pushing into the conversation, but like it just has happened to come up that I've talked about urban planning like several times the last couple of weeks, and every time I've talked to someone, they're like, "Oh, you're into urban planning." I had someone ask me, I don't remember exactly what it was like way above my head. He's like, "Oh, how do you feel about like I did something about like width of sidewalks that go to like secondary dwellings or some shit?" And I'm like, "Phew, you're so much further down the rabbit hole, and I'm super jealous."
I yeah. Now I'm gonna look that up because I feel like I have a vague sense of what that is. But um, what's it called? You also might be measuring like you might be putting your thumb on the scale by having these conversations at a school that is you know I
Oh,
think
one
getting
of them
more
was at
business
work.
minded type people. Oh really?
Yeah, and I think the last two parties I've been at, someone's been like super into urban planning. You just need to hang out with the people I hang out with, clearly.
I guess so.
Sorry,
I guess
I need
so.
to take a pause because I need to send Lauren a text to tell her that it took us exactly 44 minutes for this to become a Robert Moses podcast.
I thought you were gonna tell her that it was 44 minutes of technical difficulties of not being able to get the audio to sync with the video.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure she knows that. That's just an inherent.
Yeah. Then you bring up that Robert Moses challenge coin.
Yeah, that was on me. My phone,
See, I don't.
my phone now auto fills out when I get RO. It will go do Albert Moses immediately. I'm like, okay.
The thing with that challenge coin is that it says 99% invisible, which is like I don't
Oh,
want
you're
a
too
challenge coin
hipster,
of
Nick.
your
You need
podcast.
to get your own fancy challenge coin that no one else has any of.
Yeah, like I'm not going around toting my allegiance to this podcast. Not that people are toting allegiance to Robert Moses, but like I think there's an argument to be had where you're gonna make a coin that is like I would love it if it like referenced some kind of like big piece of legislation or you know I don't know
I mean, this is very
like
clearly a Power Broker coin, not a Robert Moses coin. I don't think I want a Robert Moses coin. I don't like. I
might
don't
get
want
you get
anyone
the
to I don't want
capability
to
around.
accidentally make someone think that that is something that I would endorse.
They don't read it close enough and they're like, uh, uh. No, you need it like chock full of like references from the book. Like what is that one thing that is like or like Order 149 on one side, something like the
Mm.
the battery tunnel or the battery bridge that he wants to build that he gets shut down at.
I mean, one like
Um,
there's a spiral around like one whole face that is that list at the very beginning of the book, like I want to say like 10 or 15 pages in, where Caro like lists
All the
off
things he built.
every single thing that he had built.
That's kind of cool. It's a little in my notes, but whatever. It's fine. I'll add it to the list. I'll make a challenge coin later.
Oh God, Nick, no, we don't have time.
We'll go into minting. So we just need a couple machines.
I mean, we
And
talked about minting like last month. We talked about that company that was selling like a single coin in like a fucking what do you call those booklets that are like all of the coupons that come in the mail once a month and everyone throws out.
I don't think that was with me.
Yeah, it was because it was I remember having a conversation that I know you were the only person in my life who would have had a conversation with me about that. Also, you were the only person in my life that I could be like, I'm gonna send this thing where like a guy in a coupon clipper is like selling a coin for like $15,
Oh,
and
yes.
you were the only person that I know who would be like, oh my
Yes.
God, that is so interesting, and then be able to sustain a
Oh,
long
yes.
conversation with me about it.
Okay. Yeah, I remember. Okay, I remember the coin, and you were like, "What is the market for this? Like, who the hell is buying this?" Because it was like in the back of a magazine,
No, no, no.
right?
It's one of those. You know when you get like the 20-page booklets that are like our this is our home
Like
cleaning
the gem.
service and here's our dry cleaning service and we're the new
Yeah.
restaurant. Here's $5 off, and it's like just yeah,
Okay.
it's like the most stereotypical junk mail that you get outside of a credit card offer. And so like it
Yeah.
was 3/4 of the way through that there was a full page ad for that guy who was selling some coin that had like a limited run or something like it was like from like the like 1850s or 60s. I don't remember.
Oh, it was
Anyway,
like the
but it's
private
like there is a
edition
limited
of
amount, and I'm like, it's such a weird business to be like, I have a business where my entire business is built around selling one thing, and then once that product runs out, there's no more of that product in the world for me to sell. Like it's not like I've got like
There
supply
has to be.
shortages. It's just there is no more supply.
There has to be. There has to be more to that. Like it has to just, I think, on its surface, just be untrue because um, part of like part of those is like what the market does compared to that coin, or how the market reacts to the availability of that coin or lack thereof. So like when something is in circulation a while, then out, like you have your circulation time. The fact that it's like if I were to bring, there's just it's to not truly have a comparable is makes it almost unpriceable. And I'm literally going through the same thing right now. I have a sticker. It's a old sticker. It's kind of like my it's kind of like this, but I can't for privacy reasons I can't really talk about more than just like, so this is a World's Fair ashtray
Mm-hmm.
from it was a real souvenir from this 64 World's Fair. And
Oh
what's
wait,
unique
is
about
it
it,
really? That's
that's
so
fine. I told you
cool.
about this.
That's so cool.
I
Yeah,
thought
I
I
know
told
it
you
was
about
from the
this.
64 though.
1964-65 from U.S. Steel.
Oh, that's rad.
So it's punched out of steel, of U.S. Steel. It says it on the back there, with the Unisphere. What's interesting is that like this design would eat away with the ashes over time,
Mm-hmm.
so it was never used. Like that is just from age.
Oh, apparently,
And right, it does
apparently, I
not
really didn't
like.
like that one.
You really didn't like it. Anyways, so I have like a sticker like that that's very similar. It's like an old souvenir.
Mm-hmm.
But they were never in circulation. There was like only a handful of them, and I had one. And I went to like a dealer, and I was like, "What do you want? Like, what would you want for it?" And they said, "I genuinely, it becomes down to like perceived value or sentimental value because there's no market for this. There's no book for it. I can't compare it against other ones. It's almost so rare that it becomes a problem instead of it being super rare and
Mm.
like it has a very high value."
Yeah, I
So
don't know that whole like antiquities markets very much confuse me.
I think it's just a lot of boomer shit, to be honest with you.
I mean, it's
Uh,
been around for at least 300 years. I'm sure more than
like
300 years ago, there were a lot of people who wanted
antiquities
300-year-old shit. Actually,
in
I
like the
know that's the
limited
case because
scope.
there was the whole thing where they were like buying like fucking tibias from saints and shit.
I'm talking like well, let's say like the last 100 or so years, like the last 200 years maybe. As far as like these things that are like antiquity adjacent,
Mm-hmm.
we'll say it. I think honestly they're like you know what? I'm starting to remember. I think this is where we landed with at that conversation. Is that they're essentially just sophisticated. They're a different flavor of like a pump and dump scheme. So they get you hyped up with literally the pump up is the one pager, and a boomer will see that and go, "Oh my gosh! Like they wouldn't print that if it were a lie." And they sell it for what was like $45 or something, or $40 or something like
Yeah.
that. Their cost is probably super duper low on it. They blow through about 1,000. They make their money, and then they move on to the next thing, and they mint another one. And if anybody ever tries to go to a shop and say, "This is my grandfather's collection. He always bought these," da 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 da, they say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. He fell for a lot of scams. These are worthless coins."
Mm.
I think that's what it is, which is sad that people would be motivated to like pursue disingenuous types of like to that level where
Yeah.
it's just like I don't know. It's like if you have like a white collar criminal, you're like, wow, you stole the Mona Lisa. Like that's not good, but I respect that. Like you gave it a lot of time
I
to
like
say
that you
like
think like most white collar criminals are art thieves.
I my only experience is watching White Collar on
Yeah, no,
USA,
I had
so
gathered when
that's
you
what I'm.
said white collar criminals and then immediately went to art thieving.
Is that not, right? They can't put it on TV if it's not real.
Oh,
So
oof,
I'm
fuck!
just
I didn't think
telling
about
you.
that. I started Lauren wanted me to watch through that. I think I did like 4 or 5 episodes, and it was all right. I can see
There's.
I would have liked it at the time.
Did you watch Burn Notice?
No, I have a lot of things to say about that, but I'm not going to say them on the podcast unless we want to do
Oh,
a triple clap to edit it out.
oh, why you don't like Burn Notice?
I, it's not a show I would enjoy watching.
Okay, okay. I was about to say like I feel like Burn Notice is a similar flavor of Power Broker, where it weirdly like it has a very small audience for being a thing that took a long time to make, like produce a show and be on a major network. But anybody who has watched it is like really likes it. Like people don't feel halfway about Burn Notice. You either watched a couple and you're like I'm out, or you stuck through the entire thing and you're like that was a phenomenal show. It didn't get the love it needed.
Mm.
Um, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get you.
Uh, every USA show in that time period like had the same. It was MacGyver, but blank,
Mm.
and then like that's what they did because Psych was MacGyver, but he's a fake psychic. Monk was MacGyver, but he's a germaphobe. Bird Notice was MacGyver, but he's an ex-spy. White
Have
Collar
you
was
ever
MacGyver, but he's a
seen MacGyver?
yeah. I have. It was like the idea where it's like he's put into precarious situations. He has to like make do with what he has, and he's good at improvising and like that like his brain and like what he can do in the moment is what gets him out of jams.
Okay.
But if
Is
you
it
look at like
good? Like I've heard so many like MacGyver is obviously like a thing that
not
people
by praise,
say, but I
not by
don't know anyone
praise,
who's seen it except for I guess you.
you you can't. It's one of those shows where it was it so many things kind of drafted off of it afterwards
Mm-hmm.
that if you were to go watch it now, you would only be seeing things that you saw that were emulating things in
Mm.
MacGyver. So it would seem like it's contrived when in reality it was the thing that originated it. But it's like you have to be really intentional when you watch that and go like, don't don't feel like oh they're ripping off this other thing. No, that other thing ripped off MacGyver kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's essentially that premise. It's just like get like putting things together, seeing something that nobody else sees. Like you could watch some MacGyver or at least like understand the synopsis and then go, oh wow, there's like all these USA shows that are like the same premise with the same kind of like there's a character that does each of these things, and then that one hero person is like really good at blank. That's like white. They're like we need to recreate a bottle of wine from 1800s. Oh well, we know how to age paper. Well, we know how to do this with the glass. Well, we know how to, and it's just like you're MacGyver, but you're like a white collar criminal because
Yeah.
who else is gonna know how to like fake a 1800s bottle of wine? But like obviously it's so easy. Like duh, can't you see it in front of you? Like this guy just did it.
They should do a reboot of White Collar, but like all of the crimes are like really boring white collar crimes. Like I want like minor accounting fraud, white collar crime.
I'm thinking about such a show.
I want like some like insurance fraud, but like boring, not like I lit my house on fire insurance fraud. Like I slightly overvalued something that got damaged.
Here, here is my like unscientific notes on what a studio executive would say
I
is
hope you know
that
that I'm not being serious, right?
no, it's too bad.
Okay, no, no,
The
that
way
no,
we're going
I'm
is
happy
we
for
can
the
go
notes.
over
I
the
just
notes.
need you to know I'm not
Okay.
that stupid.
Well, if anybody listening was about to walk into a room with that pitch, this
I
is how
mean,
you fix
it's
that.
yours. You can have it.
Free. So at that point, it becomes like a character piece where like the thing they're talking about is not really what they're talking about. It becomes about other things. And if that's the case, then the insurance, like the minor white collar insurance fraud, is not necessarily like important to the story. So at that point, you could go with anything. And then by that logic, you probably find somebody who's doing something that's a little bit more interesting while still being a character piece. And then you essentially end up with Mad Men, where if you were to talk about like, hey, it's about advertisers, and I I think it's super cool. A good chunk of creatives would think it's cool, but if you were to pitch that in Peoria, they'd be like, what? Like people that make
Sorry,
commercials and stuff?
Peoria,
Like
like Peoria, Arizona?
like I think it's the phrase is, will it play in Peoria? I think it's Peoria, Indiana.
Oh, okay. I've never heard this phrase.
You
It's
you've never
probably
heard will it play
that Nick. That's the
will
most.
it
That is the most industry thing. I guarantee you,
no, that
no
is
one
not
who hasn't been in the
my
industry
I
knows.
literally I literally went to my browser and I started typing in will it play in and then it auto corrected Peoria.
Okay, I can't look at my browser because it's gonna jump in front of our window.
Is
Because
an
I'm just in the
American
screen.
English figure of speech that is traditionally used to ask whether a given product, person, or promotional theme or event will appeal to mainstream United States audiences or across a broad range of demographics or psychographic groups. No, it's very old though. This is from 1945.
1945 does not preclude it from being industry talk. Oh, it originated in vaudeville, which I don't think is too far from industry.
Okay,
Proto
and you
industry.
just don't have a working knowledge of vaudeville?
No, surprisingly
Most
not. I feel like it is
most
absolutely.
people do, Ryan.
It feels like it's somewhat close to something that I would be really into. Honestly, it feels like a pretty good overlap between us that just doesn't exist. Yeah, you're not into
Yeah.
vaudeville. I don't
Did you
think.
watch? Oh, my mom was into like watching like old vaudeville stuff, so I was really into. I mean, that I was by mere factor of being young
Very
and like
exposed to, yeah.
very exposed to vaudeville. Have you ever watched like the Marx Brothers?
No, I haven't. I mean, like clips, little bits and pieces. And then who was the one who did all the stunts? Him, Hester or whatever, whatever. I don't remember. The guy who did like the falling house around him and that sort of thing.
Oh, I know what you're saying, but I don't think that's vaudeville because that's
Well,
already
no,
on
I don't think that's
demand
vaudeville,
now.
but are the Marx Brothers vaudeville?
The Marx Brothers started in vaudeville and then transitioned to movies.
Okay.
Well, started in vaudeville and radio plays, and then transitioned to movies. So they kind of their early
Wait, hold
movie
on.
stuff is essentially
They
yeah.
were transitioning into movies when movies did not have sound. Is that correct?
No, they did have sound.
Okay. Okay, never mind then.
Vaudeville was still going on when with silent pictures. It's when the talkies came in that like that
I
really
didn't
kind of
realize
shifted
in
it.
my mind the Marx Brothers were silent film, and I didn't realize that they because I've never seen any. I didn't realize that they were in talkies, and I was very astounded that they made the transition between a radio career to a silent film career. That it would have been really cool if it were true.
Yeah, no. Yeah, that's I think why they were doing radio because they could at least get the voice and
Yeah.
like a lot of Groucho's kind of like one-liners and tones and stuff. Actually have a book because their radio play was about a fake law firm called Shyster Flywheel and Shyster, um, and they have none of those plays survived because they didn't record radio plays that early on, but
Yeah.
they still have the scripts. So I have a book that has all of the scripts from them, and it's really funny that you see bits that they recycle into the movies because they're like, oh, nobody's heard this before. Because at the time, if you didn't hear it live,
You just didn't
it
hear
was
it.
brand new. It was brand new material. You would love the Marx Brothers. Marx Brothers are they were way too good for the time they were in. Like Groucho was writing stuff that
Surely we should deny the people of the past joy so that we can take it instead.
exactly.
Okay.
Uh,
So we're on the same page.
Another. Do you like Rod Sterling?
I don't know who that is.
Rod Sterling that wrote the Twilight Zone.
Oh. I mean, I've seen a couple of episodes of it. It was all right.
This is that thing. This is the thing I'm telling you about where like you watch things that took inspiration from it for so long that watching the original thing has lost its punch. But if you watch it understanding what else was on TV at that same time, um, it's 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 crazy to think what he was doing and what he was kind of putting out there. Another really good one that I promise you have not heard of is Ernie Kovacs. Ernie Kovacs is a phenomenal. He was a contemporary of Rod Sterling, and what Rod Sterling was doing in sci-fi, Ernie Kovacs was doing in comedy on TV, and his stuff is even today. You're like, oh my god, this is the most highbrow. He would do whole bits which were hilarious. Color TVs were not invented yet, and he started running bits on his show, like calling out to people that didn't have color TVs yet, and there was no color TVs to purchase, but he would put little tags of what color everything was in a scene. So if you didn't have a color TV, you could get the full picture, but there were no color TVs, and like stuff like that in the 50s. It's just either you got it and you were like really on the fringe, or you were just like this is not for me, and like you were upset by it. But it was good stuff. I recommend that you. I think you really like fall into vaudeville, Groucho Marx, Marx Brothers, and a little bit of Ernie Kovacs.
Okay. Send me links. But like in like several months, please.
I'm just gonna wait until we're hanging out, and then I'm just gonna be like, this is what we're doing.
This is what Lauren does with TikToks.
Perfect. I'm gonna do it with 2.5 hour comedies from the 1940s.
Boy howdy. Okay. I feel like I can never complain about any of this because I like have taken 66 hours of your life plus like 2/3 of your personality for the next several years.
But also everything that I bring to you, you end up liking it.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm making you.
Nick, this is never about me not wanting to do it. It's about me not having time to do anything.
Yeah, I think that's more of a thing we need to work on psychologically than anything else. Like under booking yourself so that you then have time. I think you're overbooking yourself.
Oh, I'm certainly overbooking myself. I'm doing too much shit.
By default.
Sorry, as what?
By default.
Oh yeah.
Your default.
Yeah. My default is I don't ever stop.
Exactly. But I give you enough cool stuff that like watching old movies.
Nick, I would do more relaxing things in my life if I could. Like, if you want to take one of the projects we're working on off of my plate.
I mean, I can take it on as much as I can. I can't code, but.
But that's what I'm saying. Like in all seriousness, like there are 1,000 cool things that I would like to do. There will be a point in my life when I can do them.
Yeah.
Now just is less of that point.
It's all good. It's all good. That first exit.
Yeah.
No, because then you're gonna be like you're gonna be on a high and you're gonna want to double down. You're gonna be like, what are we doing next?
Yeah, it'll be like the second exit. I'm gonna want to break. I'm gonna tell you that I'm gonna be done and that I'm not gonna do it anymore. Um,
Yeah.
and that's gonna last for like 2 months, and then I'm gonna go absolutely nuts and come back to you like just in tears and shambles, and you're gonna be like, "Here, this is 37 projects that I thought of. Pick one."
See, in the very narrow scope, I really like that. I like how Robert Moses would like bring a project. I know we're talking about it again. That's the same kind of guidance I got when I was doing stuff at Disney. Was if you want to get anything done, you do not bring it as an idea and say, hey, what if we did this? You bring the idea, you bring the plans, you bring where the money's going to come from, you bring the buy-in from like the senior leadership, and you essentially go, hey, this thing is ready to go, and all you have to do is say yes. And I thought, oh, this is maybe something like Disney coined internally, like their executives would just not like Walt Disney, but like the organization,
No,
like
I know.
coin like the management to get stuff done like that. And you hear about in the narration him going like, this is how he'd do it. He'd get this, and then he'd make sure that he was the only one that had plans and the only one that had money. And I was like, wait a second, I've heard that before.
Siloing.
Yeah.
So
But
good.
honestly, like boy, it's the same thing with scripts. I got the same guidance when I was first in TV. They were like, the more finished you bring something, and the less people can kind of like find cracks in it,
Yeah.
the better it's going to be. Um, so unless you're in startups, and then for some reason, people can raise $6 million on a loading screen.
You know, Nick, we should probably not name drop that app.
I'm not name dropping
Okay.
anything.
It was
I
like
just
we gotta wait until we can throw some weight around first.
I just said a loading screen. That's all I said.
True. I know. I was cutting you off the pass.
Ah, okay.
Isn't that a great? You know
Well,
what? Hold on. We came here to
what?
talk about something, and we have 18 minutes left.
Okay, left like we're gonna cut to commercial.
We do need to cut to. I have to take care of things. Also,
Okay.
I need food.
Yes. Great. In our last 15 minutes, let's talk about the topic that we wrote down that we were going to talk about. So Ryan, what happened with Etsy?
Well, Nick, what happened with Etsy?
What?
Um, no. I mean, Etsy's shit, right? Because Etsy's just worse Amazon, but worse. Sorry to be clear, worse than worse Amazon. It's two
Sure.
steps down. And like it's because everything has just become like resellers, right? It's drop
Mm-hmm.
shipping and all of that, and it's nonsense. It's like not good. It's not the reason you go on Etsy. Like I go on Etsy. I mean, I don't, but if I were to want to go on Etsy for something, if it were to still have interesting stuff, you'd go on and you'd be like, I'm trying to think of an interesting thing. Bonsai made of twisted wire,
Or,
right?
or a novelty keychain with your name on it.
Novelty keychain with my name on it, hand carved out of wood,
Yeah.
right? And like that's like okay, that sounds super cool. Okay, what do you do with it? You have to get it on because you can't get it on Amazon. And so I was like, what? How do you get back to that? Because Etsy tried to. They were like, we're gonna cut off all of this stuff, and I have heard
Yeah.
nothing successful about it. And like,
Because
then
they
they were
didn't.
like,
Because they didn't really.
no, they didn't do anything meaningful. And then they're like, oh, also we're going to allow the use of AI, which like obviously I'm not against using AI, but that's not the like that's the explicitly wrong marketplace, right? Like you need to have
Yeah.
clarity there. And so like
I think it.
go ahead.
No, 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 no.
Oh, I mean because that was like really ancillary, but just like it's just like one of these things where how do you make a new Etsy that works? Like how do you enforce those things?
You can't prioritize. It's like you're gonna copy and paste this phrase into a lot of things for it goes sideways, but like you can't prioritize growth because that's what they did. Honestly, they started out really altruistic, and I mean they were still out there to make money, but it was basically like how do we like elevate voices of people that like cannot play in the Amazon ecosystem, not because of them being a small business, but just the nature of the work that they do precludes them from operating at that scale. We can be that safe harbor for them. And, you know, when you do that and then also at the same time are a like for profit company that has to show growth and has to be driving the, every quarter got to be better than the last one, um, that at some point like is at odds with the founding principle
Yeah.
of serving these people that by definition of needing their own platform that wasn't Amazon is not going to operate in the same way. So what did they do? They were like, well, what if we just like a little bit of bad actors because they drive growth, and they go want to get on the platform. They'll spend ad dollars. I remember when we were like futzing around on the back end and like looking. Um, you can obviously do. You can spend money on Google for your listings, but also in the same way that Amazon does, you can spend money within Etsy to boost it within their ecosystem. And
Mm.
obviously, it's not as good of a system as Amazon is, but all of that is just it's pure revenue because all it is that they're just boosting you in the results on their own page
And
that
then
they chose
everyone
the
else
order
has to
on.
boost above you, so they get the money from them, and then you have to, yeah.
That's all paid, which is basically all like how all bidding and like paid media works.
Yeah.
Is like it's all an auction. So it's like, yeah, they're the arms dealer. They're dealing to both sides essentially, going like, well, this other brand bid on your keyword on your business name. Don't you want to up your bid so that you own your own keyword? And you're like, shouldn't I just own it because it's my keyword? They're like, not if they want to give us more money. Sorry, I don't make the rules, but they do. But anyways, like they just started to let in some more of those bad actors because they drove growth,
Mm-hmm.
and then and I think is once you let in some and they go, hey, it's not that crowded over here. I can drop ship. I can do print on demand. I can like come in
Well, and the thing
and
about
make
those
some money.
businesses is like they're so fast to start up, which means like and
Once
the
people,
and everything is like easy to move over, right? Like once you've started up everything you're using, just you
oh
just
no, it's
move over to the
it's
other thing. So every
beyond
time you
easy. The
get,
the the if you were doing like the drop shipper or like print on demand, certain vendors had like a direct connection where like the order would go through Etsy, it would automatically push to the print on demand, get printed, get shipped, uh, and then sent out to the customer, and like you could literally do nothing
yeah. And so
and
just
and,
being
and,
able
and
to
run
like
it.
if they were like, oh, we're gonna cut these people out, we're gonna stop this, like how do they do it? You cut one, you get that one back up somewhere else under another name, and just keeps on happening.
Even if you wanted to, but they didn't want to.
No.
And the thing is, like that kind of like quick to start up, quick to burn out, and start over will go to where there is the least density because they'll have the greatest reach. So the minute that somebody saw that they could get greater reach on that platform than they could on other ones like Amazon, all of a sudden the floodgates open, and
Yeah.
then they totally overran the small creators who now had to like bid just to get seen on the platform that was supposed to be their safe harbor from those actions on Amazon.
Yeah.
And then they tried to walk that back a bit and go, well, we're going to label drop shippers. We're going to label, which is
Doesn't
a
matter because they
really like,
come up in
and
the results way ahead.
it's like an empty gesture because if they still pay enough and it comes up, uh, you are going to, by virtue of seeing it on Etsy, trust it more still, and that like, oh, it's a drop shipper is not this like, oh, I need to click away from this cookie consent page type of in your face. It's like off to the side. You could easily, if people don't see like your sizing, your ship window, your return policy, and they write in because they didn't bother to look, they're not going to see the little thing that says,
Yeah.
that they're a drop shipper. So it really was a disingenuous move. And then if people can't operate, it's not even like they left and said, "Well, screw you, I'm going to Amazon." They
They
couldn't go there
can't.
in the first place. They
So
just closed.
so I
You
saw
just
this
lost them.
on Reddit is actually where I saw this was happening.
Mm.
And there were a lot of people who are who used to do stuff on Etsy who were talking about it drove them out, or like they're like, well, you can still do it here, but it's like really hard and you have to spend all this time and work doing that. which is like why I wanted to bring this up to you because I was like, how do you fix it? And like I have like an idea, but like I'm already starting to be like, no, never mind, that wouldn't work. Like just breaking it down as I'm going, which I was like, oh, what if you had like a unit limit, right? Like how do I stop a drop shipper from being valuable? Well, they're not making very much money on what they're making, like, and they can have as much as they want, right? Like it's a volume play in part. And so like it was like, well, what if you just couldn't sell more than I don't know, 20 things a month? And then I was like, no, that's a terrible idea because there are a lot of like handmade things where you can, and like there's a lot of stuff about that that
You're
just doesn't work. And I was just like, what I was stuck. I was lost. Like what could you do? How could you go about
you're
that?
also just you're also just you're there whatever your zig is, they're gonna zag. Like if you
Well,
build it really
sure.
bad, they'll open two stores and then they'll do 40 and then three and then you know what I mean. It's the once you move away from the core mission and you try to stop it through rules, you will get bad actors that work all day to like look to circumvent them.
But how do
But
you
if by like
not be Etsy? How do you make the new Etsy?
well, honestly, you could if just make Etsy again, but don't be don't be like solely growth driven.
Right,
Because
but
if
if you do
Etsy,
that, like people are going to move over, and then the once all of the like real Etsy sellers leave, no one's going to go there just for the drop shippers. Like you go to
no, no,
Etsy because
no,
you hope you
no,
see something, and then you run across some
no,
drop
but
ship.
Etsy, then Etsy will die. Etsy will go and die. But like, let's say like
Right, but if
some,
Etsy dies and all those people come over there, the drop shippers are going to see that and come over too.
no, but you don't let them in before like Etsy, like at its inception, Etsy required them to be handmade goods.
That's what I'm saying. Is how are you checking on that? How are you confirming something is handmade?
I mean, there's a lot of different ways. A lot of the you could like verify shipping addresses, warehouse addresses. A lot of these small people, like their home is where they ship it out of, or they have like one location. If you're doing a drop shipper or a print on demand company, they're generally shipping out of a couple consolidated warehouses, and it's not hard to flag those addresses as drop shippers and not
Mm,
allow you to sell from those addresses. Like that's like their whole play is consolidation. So
that
by
makes sense.
design, they're pretty easy to identify. It's individual creators who are vastly decentralized that are the people you want to let on there. So you could put checks and balances, but honestly, if you came in and there's somebody on Blue Sky that was talking about I think I tagged you in it, Ryan, but he was like talking about like a public benefit corporation,
Oh yeah, yeah.
which I was like, I don't know, maybe I'm missing something because it seems like a lot of downside and very little upside apart from like virtue signaling, where it's just like, oh, we put it in our bylaws that we have to be a certain amount of altruistic, and if we're not, because we're a public benefit corporation, it's in our like founding documentation, so we can be sued if we don't. So it really holds us accountable, which sounds great until you're trying to get money from anybody
Yeah.
that's just going to go, well, just just be good, but don't in a land of frivolous lawsuits, don't open yourself up to more lawsuits, and you don't even get like the benefits of a like some benefits of nonprofit or something to that end. Where I
Yeah.
thought, oh, maybe you get benefits and like that's how you balance it. No, you don't get any of the benefits. You're still a for-profit company. You just now have increased um, exposure to people suing you for not being as good as you say you're going to be, which I'm trying to understand the upside on how to package that. But you could potentially, in this instance, if you found somebody who was funding that, build Etsy 2, build it as a public benefit corporation, the public benefit being artisans and, skilled craftsmen that are not in a place where their trade is ever going to scale. And like the benefit is that you provide a safe harbor for them to digitally show their wares in a marketplace like they would have in real life. And it will, all the people move over, all the safeguards, because it's a public benefit corporation, are put into to actually actively weed out drop shippers. Um, and then you're gonna scale up quickly, and then you'll hit a ceiling. Like at a certain point, you either get more artisans on the platform, or like you look to see if to get a larger TAM on who is maybe interested in that product. But you're probably going to hit a pretty good ceiling,
Mm-hmm.
and then like have very little growth, if at all, and you just need to be okay with that.
Yeah.
Which I might come back to that public benefit corporation on Blue Sky was, I don't know if something like this exists, but I need, if you could tie that with some nonprofit benefits, but put a hard cap on how much you returned, so that the company could be treated like a bond where it delivered a 3% return or something. So you could trade it, invest in it, and treat it like a financial tool. It's not like it loses all value, but it's never going to deliver more. Like a bond doesn't have like a good year. It is. That's kind of the whole point.
Yeah.
So if you could treat it like a bond, if they made a 10% return one year, no, they made a 3, and the other percentage points go towards like getting more people onto the platform. Maybe you're doing like you're funding apprenticeship classes so that you get more people on your platform to sell more things. Like
I like
you're
that.
doing more outreach. Like you're using that money to to basically grow the business, because you are bound by this entity where like you reached your 3%. All the investors got their 3% like they would anywhere else, but now the extra has to go in to making sure that you do like the 3% for X amount of years. It's like when a nonprofit like banks excess so that they have their funding goals a couple years out in case they don't reach them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they basically just said, we know we're funded for this many years because we banked it. Like if I could say, hey, we're Etsy 2 and we've made a 30% return in the first 5 years, um, but we are a XYZ type of corporation, 3% growth every year is all we're allowed to post. So you can put your money in us, and I will deliver a 3% return for the next 50 years because I already have that banked.
Hmm.
So like I do think that there is a case
I mean,
for that type of
what's
organization
to do
exist,
that as opposed to just doing? Well, maybe not. Never mind.
because it's like I think the reason that Etsy lost its way is that at a certain point you're gonna
Oh
get
yeah, yeah, for
turnover.
sure. I definitely agree
You're
on
gonna
that.
get, but like you don't want to go so earnest that you lose interest in the market, because at that point you are not playing in that space, and then you kind of cut yourself off on like this mission, on anything that's actually going to move you forward in any kind of real way. So you need to still play the game, but maybe you can kind of, you know, make a new piece for the board essentially while still playing the game. And if you build that in, then you don't have what happened to Etsy, because by design, they it's not that they want to scale, they cannot let bad actors in. They they wouldn't know what to do with it. They already banked their profit. They can't make more. That's the problem. It's like the allure of more
Mm-hmm.
consumerism got them to where they are. But if you can thread this needle, and like I do think it's like, yeah, it's not going to be $100 million company, but maybe it's a $25 million company that is better than a treasury bond because they bank their profits for the next 50 years. I think that type of company has a place in the market.
In the public market, because you
Like
can't really do, because like things like that exist
no, no,
in
no, no,
the.
no, not in the well, I mean maybe in the public, maybe in the pseudo public market, like in the same way that you buy, trade, and sell bonds. Like you buy, trade, and sell shares in this company, but they're not on the market. They're not on the stock market with ups and downs. Like their return rate is kind of their value.
So that's just a corporate bond, more or less. Like, that exists.
It's like, but it's like
Oh, but like
shifting
tied
the
to the
structure.
structure of it.
Yes,
Okay, that might exist.
because
I'm not a lawyer.
because because then yes you are.
Please no.
Because um, then if like dropshipper were to come in and say, well, we can give you 1,000 users that are going to like spend ads on your platform, and you're going to make an extra $50 million this year. You can say like, by design, I couldn't even do anything with that money, and I can't let you in on the platform, and at least it's a better footing to ward that off and say that's not what we're here for. Because if not, you turn into Etsy, where to chase profits, they had to start to bend and tweak their mission to the point where, like,
None
they're
of it
nothing.
was. Yeah.
Like, yeah. But again, I think it has to be like a certain, has to be like a certain type of like founder, C-suite. Like, it has to be people that are okay with this kind of being a thing that is not an infinitum. Which also, like I think we need to kind of square away that like nothing is infinitum like that, even though that's how we like to think. Like, well, everything is going to be up and to the right forever. It's like, no, there's probably a really real ceiling on most of these things, but we don't like to think in those ways. Uh, so I don't know. Maybe it like starts the dialogue on just kind of having caps and being okay with that.
Yeah.
I don't know. That'll be another one of those projects, Ryan, where we like build a new type of corporate formation, and then not only found a company that is doing it, but then advocate for that companies that could be candidates to like move over to being this type of like um, corporate structure, and then like lobby Congress so that that structure has certain tax benefits, so that people are incentivized to like do good and like be this like pseudo like capped profit bond equivalent type company.
All right.
Yeah,
Whenever
that'll be
you're
like
ready to get
third
into
thing.
lobbying, and there's a lot of law writing there too. So whenever you know a lawyer, because I want to be very clear, Nick, I am not a lawyer.
I don't know, Ryan. I think it's like a common law thing. You review a certain amount of legal documents. You become one
If you
in
read
certain states.
if you read everything, every contract that someone puts in front of you, like when you go to get your oil change, and you will not sign it until you read all of those words, you just automatically get handed a lawyer license.
I think that's how they do it now.
I
Like,
mean,
especially
that
for the
is
rich.
legitimately, I'd probably be a lawyer.
Okay, well, this took us over on our time.
That's
So,
true. And I did say we were going to
any
go
final
over.
thoughts?
No, we did not talk a lot about the thing we were going to talk about. We could have gotten into a lot more depth, but that's okay. I think we ended on something good, and maybe, well, no, I was going to say like maybe we try to stay more focused next time, but I don't know. This was fun. I think like just generally, if we're like really out of the box, where like half of it was just like us banting, and then the other half was like,
Yeah.
and now we're going to have a very serious business discussion. I'm good with either. I think that we're not quite hitting the balance of.
Where do you want it? Where do you feel more comfortable? The
I mean,
bantering or
I
the
enjoy the
like?
banter probably more, but
Okay.
I think that the actual thing we get use out of would be probably more in
Would
the
be
other
the
direction
time.
with like, and
I
it's
don't.
not even that so much as like it feels like, and obviously I don't spend a lot of time in front of a camera, so I know this is more on me than you, but like I am very much feeling the perception of being perceived, um, and so
Mm,
like it changes. I think normally when we have conversations like this, there is a better intermix, right? There's like it's interleaved together between the like the banter is part of the serious conversation is part of the banter.
and I think because we started with like a, oh, what are we gonna say? Like, it started really loose. Where when we have a normal meeting that ends up going off course, we generally start with like a very structured beginning.
Yeah.
So like maybe that's the way to do it, is like we start with like a very like structured beginning, and then we can kind of go off. I really, I will say, I was trying to find ways to fold it in, and I was like, feels weird to be like, so Etsy's in the news, like I'm on a late night show or something. Like, how do I introduce that? But I loved what you said, like, hey, I saw this thing on Reddit and I thought it was really interesting, and I thought to myself, oh, that is the perfect way to intro it. It's like it fits with what we're talking about. It sounds like an offhanded thing, but it could very easily become the meat of the conversation. And I think the lead in,
Mm-hmm.
when thinking about this from a like media perspective, is very important. So that lead in, I think, will be also like when we talk about like what are we going to talk about, like what's the lead in, so that we're not just like today it's Etsy, it's like today is this because I saw this on Reddit, we were talking about this elsewhere, or like you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
there's an interesting lead in to what's being discussed.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
Okay.
like it. Well, can I make a one last complaint about Etsy?
Yeah.
There are so many times when something from Etsy shows up on a Google image search, and I'm like, oh my god, yes, I would like to buy this thing. And then you click on that, and it just sends you to the page, the Etsy page for the search that you made,
I hate that too.
instead of that
That's
specific
like
thing, or even like on the page,
yeah.
scroll down to that specific thing.
It's not like
And like I
it's
will
not like
go and like sometimes I'll scroll 3 or 4 different layers through, like going to the next page and so on, and it just won't be there. And I'm like, I would have bought that.
it's really sloppy, is what it is. It's just they could have been linking deeper into the actual product. But I think they're big enough now. It's probably a strategic decision where they think that, or not think, they probably have data that more times than not, if you see that image and you go, I want that, and then you land on the page, and then you go, oh, now I need to find it, you will
Mm.
spend some time on the page, and maybe you will go, now I've now committed minutes to this search. Now I need to find it. Now I'm going to search in Etsy search. So now you're engaging within the search, which probably statistically brings you to like a deeper level of customer that you're more likely to convert. So
Yeah.
like I think it's by design. It's like, oh, what were you looking for? I don't know. Why don't you just search now that you're here? And you're like, that's not what I want. But now you're a session. You're like a real session that's engaging.
Yeah.
Where if you clicked it, got to the product, and then checked out, it wouldn't log it the same way.
Oh.
Which is like another example of like stuff being optimized towards the measuring and the optimization of that thing, and not towards a better user
Yeah.
experience, because that was done for metrics that are supposed to represent the best user experience, but in fact are just representative of the metrics getting more metricy.
Mm-hmm.
In actuality, you should have been able to buy that from the search result, or in actuality, you should have been able to just talk to your phone, and it knows where the best place is, exactly what you want, because it has the context of what you like aesthetically as a person, has your credit card information, it has your bank account statement, so it knows which card to pull from, and has your address to know who to ship it to. That's the ideal state.
Perfect.
That's that fintech one, Ryan, that I have shelved.
That's absolutely unrelated to the fintech one that you have shelved.
V2.
Oh my god. All right. I will catch you Monday.
We're talking Monday
No, I'm doing
morning,
something
and then
Monday. Anyway.
no, we're talking 9 8 like at 9 a.m.
Oh, 9 a.m. Monday. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry, I meant after Monday. But you're right. We are talking 9 a.m. Monday.